Obama to the rescue. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Before President Trump could even clarify his statements in Helsinki, President Obama pounced. Speaking in Johannesburg, he hit the sitting president, populism, and attempted to breathe life into his own sad legacy.
Look around. Strongman politics are ascendant, suddenly, whereby elections and some pretense of democracy are maintained, the form of it, but those in power seek to undermine every institution or norm that gives democracy meaning.
Okay, well, the people and their will give democracy its meaning. But don't you love how Obama attempts to write Trump off as some Putin-like dictator? Oh, and for good measure, he tries to lend credence to the line that Trump, of course, is siding with the old KGB and Putin over all of our intelligence agents and services. A point the president clarified and batted down today, as we just played in the previous segment. And let's not pretend that America, by the way, hasn't had a history of making convenient alliances with unsavory strongmen. We do so when necessary to achieve greater objectives for our country. I'm thinking, for instance, Mubarak and Saddam Hussein, just to mention a few. And remember, Obama himself abruptly cut short a big meeting with our key Democratic ally, India, to attend a memorial service for King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia. A bit of a strong man, don't you think? Or maybe some strong men are better than others. When Obama's involved with a strong man, they're fine. The former president also makes the mistake of assuming that Trump and the millions of people who turned out to vote for him just came out of the ether. They just dropped from the sky. Well, Trump was elected in part because many Americans were fed up with the weak man leadership of Barack Obama, the president who drew red lines in disappearing ink. Voters in Ohio, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and beyond had it with globalism, had it with open borders, and had it with trade deals that gutted our manufacturing and gave an upper hand to China. Trump voters were also tired of endless wars, and they still are. That's called common sense conservative populism. But of course, many in the bipartisan establishment that Trump ran against will never admit the failures of globalization, and instead, like Obama, they choose to denigrate its skeptics.
In the West, you've got far-right parties that oftentimes are based not just on platforms of protectionism and closed borders, but also on barely hidden racial nationalism.
When in doubt, play the race card. Well, this is just pure identity politics. That's what Obama's really good at. And on the global stage, no less. All to help rescue Democrats in the midterms. And by the way, could that be interpreted as criticizing America on the global stage in a foreign country? I think so. Whipping up racial divisions is a typical Democrat tactic, and one we've already seen deployed by, for instance, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the new bright light of the Democrat Party, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Maxine Waters, the list goes on and on. Obama, there in Johannesburg, just makes it all sound slightly more erudite with all those pregnant pauses. Then, of course, he couldn't resist launching the internationalist tired old refrain against populism, with a few lines that could have been written by George W. Bush himself.
The fact that countries which rely on rabid nationalism and xenophobia and doctrines of tribal, racial, or religious superiority as their main organizing principle, the thing that holds people together, eventually those countries find themselves consumed by civil war or external war.
Hope he's not talking about our country. Well, I think of Japan, for instance, which has a strong nationalistic streak. It prizes their culture and has a very strict immigration policies. Are they on the verge of civil war? I don't think not. I don't think so. Look, Obama's star turn today was designed to seize on the opening that the globalists feel they have after Helsinki. But as usual, they overreach, and they have this really convenient case of amnesia regarding their own role in the rotten state of affairs with Russia. These are the facts, though. Obama did not reset our relationship with Russia, even though he bragged about it all the way through 2012. And Obama consistently underestimated the challenge posed by Putin's regime. And this is the assessment from the Brookings Institution, no fans of Trump. Writing, at the end of Obama's 2 terms, Putin had elevated Russia to a credible revisionist power on the international stage. Russia annexed Crimea and occupied much of eastern Ukraine. By successfully propping up the degenerate Assad regime, the Kremlin gained a veto on any possible political solution to Syria and got a meaningful foothold in the broader region, fueling both anti-Americanism and illiberalism. And most damning of all, it managed to meddle almost unopposed in U.S. politics, all on Obama's watch. I just read that in the makeup room earlier. The bottom line is this: the 2 biggest nuclear powers in the world should have an open and frank line of communication. That's better for America's security. And guess what? It's better for global peace. It's what liberals used to be for: more talk, less war. Trump has a realistic and a pragmatic view of the post-Cold War era. The most serious threat to America militarily and economically is not Russia. By the way, with an economy basically the size of Italy's. In fact, the biggest threat to America is China. Trump is the first president to make this plain and act accordingly, with tough talk and tougher actions, including tariffs that the globalists are all against. And the globalists who are obsessed with Russia, of course, they say precious little about China's incursions, China's cheating, and China's threats. Why? Because they make gobs of money on a rising China. Remember back in 2014 when the Chinese military hacked into the federal government's Office of Personnel Management? China has home addresses, social security numbers, and family information on 22 million current and former government employees, including mine. This was Barack Obama with President Xi after the news broke. Looked very friendly. Did Obama confront Xi on the world stage then? About that hack? Huge intrusion? No, he did not. And did the media make a big deal of that? No, they did not. Did pundits on MSNBC and CNN claim that Obama was in Xi's back pocket for not calling him out? No, they did not. But back to Russia. Trump said yesterday that both sides deserve blame for the state of the relationship. Now, I might not have said that while standing next to Putin, but in a 2016 BBC piece, quoting Paul Pillar, a former CIA officer and foreign policy expert, he said, the relationship went wrong when the West did not treat Russia as a nation that had shaken off Soviet communism. It should have been welcomed as such into the new community of nations. But instead, it was regarded as a successor state to the USSR, inheriting its status as the principal focus of Western distrust. Now, you can debate whether that was the right thing to do, but we opted to expand NATO, he said, and failed in our attempts to turn Russia into an ally, albeit a cagey one. Now, that got Russia's back up, and it boosted Putin's popularity in his homeland. The truth is that lots of people have said what Trump said yesterday, that we should have a better relationship with Russia where we can. Guess who said it? Clinton, George W. Bush, and yes, Barack Obama.
America wants a strong, peaceful, and prosperous Russia. That's why I have called for a reset in relations between the United States and Russia. This must be more than a fresh start between the Kremlin and the White House. It must be sustained effort among the American and Russian people to identify mutual interests and expand dialogue and cooperation that can pave the way to progress.
Sounds pretty good. So why is that thought now suddenly so subversive? Oh, because we have a Republican president in the White House. And by the way, a Republican president who's backing up the conciliatory talk, building bridges, with tough sanctions as well. Well, the Democrats have the midterms ahead of them. They're coming. And Barack Obama and the Democrats clearly fear that Trump might succeed where they failed. And that's the angle.